A big thank you to Afinity for sponsoring us today, and thank you all for attending today's session. Hopefully you'll find it useful. As Angie said, I want to talk to you today about our latest release of iManage, iManage Work 10. Before we jump into that specifically, I wanted to give some of you who may not be familiar with the iManage solution a little overview of what iManage brings to the table in the legal marketplace. As I said, iManage Work 10 is our flagship product. It's our work product management solution that automates all of the processes around document creation, collaboration, and the document lifecycle in general in a legal environment. There's also a number of other components that complement Work 10. iManage Share is an integrated component that allows you to very easily take this work product from inside your firm and share it externally to collaborate with folks outside your firm very seamlessly and securely. iManage Insight is our analytics solution. You'll hear a little bit more about some of the components of this farther in the presentation, but gives us the ability to extend Work 10 to knowledge management and analytics in your firm. And then finally, there's iManage Govern. This is our security and governance solution, and this also you'll be hearing more about in the presentation. It brings records management capabilities to the Work 10 suite, but at the same time also provides advanced analytics capabilities to analyze threats that might be happening inside your firm, and also gives you the ability to secure content based on policies, ethical walls, and so forth. So what is iManage Work 10 all about? As I said, it is a work product management solution. It is what you use as a legal professional to create work product, manage that work product, collaborate around it, and finalize it in a legal environment. This represents the most significant product update in over 10 years at iManage. And when we designed this product, we designed it for the end user, with the end user in mind. We're big believers that software should work the way the user works, not the other way around. And as Angie said, it is designed not only for the desktop, but also for cloud and mobile devices as well. And one solution works seamlessly across all those different form factors and platforms. So what does Work 10 do for you? You know, I've talked about work product management, and some of you might be saying, well, what is that exactly? And of course, I'll answer that when you see the demonstration. But you know, really, it's designed to address all of these challenges that I have listed here. And when you look at the sides, certainly these are challenges faced by today's law firms. Collaboration. How do we collaborate as easily as we do with something like, you know, Dropbox or Box.net to share pictures? How do we do that with our work product? It's got to be mobile. It's got to work on any device anywhere. I want to have the same features and functionality on my phone or my iPad as I do on the desktop. It's got to be agile. That means that it's got to adapt to the way I work. It's got to be secure, obviously, particularly when we talk about accessing things from a mobile device or in the cloud. Total cost of ownership, or what we call the ownership experience, is also important. It's got to be cost effective to deploy, to support, and to continue to utilize. And obviously, it has to drive productivity. That means users have to want to use it and be productive with it. But you know, all of these things, they're important, but they all drive that one right there at the top, which is user adoption. No software solution is going to be successful if end users don't use it. So everything we do at iManage, and specifically with Work 10, is all about driving user adoption, making it the solution that users want to use, that they look forward to use, rather than the solution that's mandated by the IT department. So when we designed Work 10, this is how we accomplished this. We went through a process. Work 10 went through, by far and away, the most extensive beta testing cycle that I have ever seen in all my years at iManage, and I go all the way back to 2001. So we did all of these things. You know, Work 10 was, first off, starting at the left there, designed by users. We literally put the product in front of lawyers, asked them to perform different tasks. We watched to see how they did it. We took their feedback, we put it right back into the product. As I said before, it needs to be mobile first. We have to have a single user experience across not only the desktop but mobile devices. That is a must today in 2017. The system is smart, and what I mean by that is that it needs to anticipate what the user wants to do. Okay, users don't want to spend a lot of time having to learn software. Nobody wants to go to training anymore. When I download an app on my phone, I expect to just be productive with it. I don't expect to have to sit in a half-day training. So the solution has to be simple, intuitive, but it's got to be smart. It's got to be able to anticipate what it is that I want to do. Along those same lines, ease of use, think of Amazon.com or eBay or any online retailing site. Again, nobody had to train you how to use those sites. We all just figured it out. The user experience was intuitive enough that we were able to accomplish a task just based on what we saw in front of us. And that's the standard that we had to develop to, and that's what we've accomplished with Work 10. And then finally, it needs to be tuned to today's information volumes. What does that mean? It means that the system has to perform the same and provide the same user experience regardless of if I've got 10,000 documents in my system or if I've got 10 million documents or 100 million. It has to perform at the same level. And again, that's what we've done with Work 10. So for those of you that have not seen it, this is your first view at Work 10, and I just wanted to spend a minute here talking about some of those key things and giving you a visual for how we accomplish them. So first off, I talked about the product being smart. One great illustration of that is the smart search, and you'll see this in the demo, but it's the ability of the system to anticipate what it is I might be searching for and offer up suggestions. I mentioned the analogy with Amazon.com or eBay. The filters along the left-hand side allow me to do exactly that. It allows me to search and filter intuitively as opposed to having to go through a complex search dialog as you might have done in a classic document management system. We provide contextual help. I talked about being able to use a system with no training or very little training. It turns out the trainers actually get a little irate with me when I say that there's no training. So I'll revise that and say that it's designed to be used with very little training, and one of the things that aids with that is the contextual help that gives you little hints about how to do certain tasks in the system. And then finally, you see on the right-hand side there, inline properties and access to document versions and previews. This is what I call elective disclosure. And what I mean by this is that when you go into Work 10, the user experience will be very simple and clean. It's up to you as an end user how much information you want to see. So when you do decide that you want to see properties on a document, for example, or a preview or additional versions, and I'll show you that in the demo, you can elect to disclose that information and show it on the screen, or you can hide it very easily. And again, it's all about keeping a very simple user experience. The integration that we have with Microsoft Office follows all of these same rules. So obviously when we talk about work product management, where does your work product usually start? Well, it usually starts in Microsoft Office, or specifically Microsoft Word. So the integration there is something that has to, as I said, follow all these rules, and in Work 10 it does. It's very lightweight, it's very intuitive, it provides a consistent look and feel in user experience, whether you're in Office or in the web app or even on a mobile device. So we've made sure that the Office integration follows, again, all of those same rules that I talked about. And when we do talk about mobile devices, as I said, we have the same experience whether you're on your desktop in a browser, on your iPad or other tablet or on a phone. We do have a dedicated app for iOS. We recognize that there are a lot of iOS users out there who do want the advantages of a dedicated app, and we have one for Work 10. So if you are an iOS user, in addition to being able to run the web client on your mobile device, you can download an app from the App Store. And it provides some very specific things for the device. I'll just talk about some of those. The ability to leverage Touch ID for additional security. You can just use your thumbprint to unlock the app itself. A security curtain. That means that as you're swiping between apps, we shield the screen. You're not able to see any of the content, so it provides an additional layer of security. Very tight integration with other applications on the device. We have what's called a storage provider extension in iOS that gives you the same experience when editing documents using Microsoft Office for iOS as you have on the desktop, and that's unique to the iOS platform. and an advanced briefcase, the ability to take content offline, either document by document or by entire matters, so you have that content when you're completely disconnected right there on your phone. It wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about some of the administrative capabilities that we have in Work 10. Now, I know we probably have a number of existing iManage customers on the phone with us today, and whether you're an existing customer who's used our administrative tools in the past, or you might be a new prospect looking at iManage and wondering, okay, what tools do I have available to manage the system? iManage Control Center is relevant to you. This is a completely redesigned administrative experience that we have designed that provides wonderful administrative access with delegated capabilities, so you can delegate administrative tasks to help desk personnel and so forth. And it provides all of this not only for customers who deploy iManage on premises, but also for those who deploy or choose to go with iManage in the cloud. You have the exact same administrative experience. So what we've done is we've provided all that functionality and normalized administrative access, whether you're a cloud customer or on-premise. So all that said, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the product, and then I'll come back to my presentation, and I want to talk to you about a few new things that we're doing as well in the area of analytics and governance. So I've switched over to my demo. I'm going to go ahead and log into iManage Work 10, and this is it. I've just logged in. Obviously, I'm running my browser here on my desktop, and when I come into my main landing page, what's great about Work 10 is it allows me to pick up right where I left off. So what I see first is my recent documents. I see a timeline view. I see things that I've worked on today, earlier this week. I can see things from last week. So right off the bat, I'm able to come in and, like I said, pick up right where I left off. I can leverage the filters along the left-hand side to slice and dice the information further, if you will. So for instance, if I only wanted to see documents that I'd recently edited, I can just simply tap on viewed, and now I'm only seeing documents that I've edited. If I want to re-add those documents that I viewed, I can just tap on that right there. Maybe I just want to see things that I've worked on today or within the last week. Again, with just a couple of taps, either with my mouse or with my finger if I'm on a mobile device, I'm able to narrow down that information. It might also be that I want to see just PDFs or maybe just Word documents. Again, very, very simple to leverage those filters along the left-hand side to narrow down my results very quickly. Now, the recent documents that I'm looking at here, it has no limit. For existing customers, iManage customers, you may be familiar with our document work list, which has a maximum of 40 documents. Well, 40 is not tremendously useful. Some people turn over 40 documents in one day or in a few days. So the recent documents in Work 10, because of our new platform, doesn't have a limit. It can go all the way back to when you first started using the system. And with the filters, it makes it very easy for you to narrow down just to the few documents you're looking for. But of course, being able to search the system is paramount for any work product management system. And you see search here in iManage Work 10 is top and center, as I like to say. So let's say that I want to go ahead and search for an agreement that I've been working on. I'll go ahead and type in agreement. And remember what I said in the presentation about the system being smart. This is what you're seeing here. Notice that when I type in the word agreement, the system automatically comes back and it says, okay, I see that you're putting in agreement. You might be searching for a keyword somewhere in the body text of a document, or maybe you just want to restrict your search just to the title. So if I just want to search within the title, all I have to do is tap that, and now it's done my search, but it's restricted my results just to the word agreement in the title. Now, if you contrast that with a traditional document management system, I would have had to bring up a profile form, a separate form. I would have had to find the appropriate field, maybe the description field, put in the word, hit OK, and wait for my results to come back. So with Work 10, we just tried to make that process a lot more intuitive and allow the system to anticipate what it is I might be searching for. Now, when my results come back, you notice here that the results are personalized. What that means is that the documents that have come back in this search are documents that belong to clients and matters that I've recently been working on. So they're relevant specifically to me. It didn't search across the entire system. What it did is it focused just on those things that are important to me. Now, of course, if I want to search across the entire system, I can just tap all right here, and that goes ahead and expands my results. But by default, we personalize the results so that we can tune out the noise. We can tune out that information that may not be as relevant to me because it's not specifically related to things I've been working on. And again, we have the ability now to come through and use any of the filters. So if I just want to see those things from the last month that happen to be PDFs, makes it very, very simple to filter down those results right there. Now, I'll go ahead and take a step back here. And let's talk a little bit about the user experience in general. Now, a lot of times when folks look at this, they say, well, that's great. That's a very clean user experience, but where do I see more information about these documents? Where do I see additional versions, or how do I see a preview of it, or some of the properties? And this is where that elective disclosure that I talked about in the presentation comes into play. If I want to see the details on this document, I just simply tap on the sidebar here, and that expands it out, and now it shows me all of those things. It shows me the properties on the document, or the profile information. So for example, I can see who the author is, the type of document, the class of document. This happens to be an agreement. If we scroll down here, we can see things like the client matter information. And we can even see more information by just simply tapping Show More. We can see, things like the status, jurisdiction, and so forth. And if I have the rights, I can even edit some of this information. So for example, if I wanted to go ahead and change the jurisdiction to Oregon, simple enough for me to do right there in that right-hand pane. If this document has multiple versions, we can see all those versions listed right there. I can take individual actions on any of these versions. So if I want to bring one up specifically or download it, I can do that right here from within this panel. And of course, we can preview the document right here in line. So by clicking the preview pane, this goes ahead and brings up the document preview. I can see that preview right there. We have a completely new preview engine technology in Work 10. What it allows me to do is just download the first few pages of a document, and then we'll load additional pages as you scroll. So it's a much more efficient way of previewing content, particularly on a mobile device. Now when you look at this, you might say, well, that's great, but it's really kind of hard for me to read. That's pretty small type. Not a problem. I can just go ahead and zoom in very easily using the zoom tool, and I can even pan around with my mouse. So it makes it very easy for me to leverage that preview right there. And if I do want to take this now full screen, I can just tap on the full screen icon, and that takes the preview into full screen mode, which gives me a whole set of tools that I can use to perform functions on this document. Now before I talk about those, what if I want to search within this document and find a specific term? We have the ability to do that. I can go ahead and tap search, and let's say I was searching for the word asset. I just simply type that in, and now it shows me all of the hits in this document for the word asset. So if I were to scroll down and jump down a little bit farther, it will take me right to that page where that particular hit is, so that makes it really easy for me now to search through the document for a specific section or clause if I want to do that. Let's go back over here to the toolbar, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the tools that we have. Of course, I can download a copy of this document from here. If I have security rights, I could upload a new version. I can share the document from here, right here via email, and I don't even have to go to my native email application. So if I'm on a mobile device, it doesn't matter which device or which mail application I happen to be using, I can send this right from within the Work 10 web app. So if I wanted to go ahead and send this out to my colleague, Andrew Case, I could just simply put in his name, and from here send either a link or a copy of the document right from here within the app. One of the nice things we also have is the timeline view. This shows me the history of the document. Now for you existing iManage Work customers, you're familiar with document history, with the audit trail. It shows me everything that was done to this document, who did it, when they did it, and what application they used to do it, and so forth. In Work 10, we allow you to visualize that. So what I'm looking at here is all the times this document was edited over the last month. Maybe I want to confirm this document by checking to see if it is the one that was emailed within the last week. So what I've done is I've selected the email activity. I've selected 1 week as my time frame, and I can see all the times that this document was emailed and when, and I can even see which users did it. I can see that Fred emailed it on the 24th, and Kelly Thompson did it on the 29th. So it allows me to verify and validate the document based on activity. So the history visualization is a great addition to Work 10. Okay. So what if I want to edit this document? Well, the first icon here allows me to do that. So if I go ahead and tap on that, that's now going to go ahead and open this document up right in Microsoft Word. And as I said in the presentation, we're tightly integrated in Word. Notice that we have a Work 10 ribbon right here that gives me all the functions that I would normally need to interact with iManage. Maybe I want to change the address here. I'll go ahead and make a change to this person's address, and if I wanted to save this as a new version, I can just simply tap Save as a New Version, and this allows me now to save this into iManage as the latest version of that document. Maybe I want to save it as an entirely new document. I can go ahead and click Save As, and again, it allows me now to browse through either by searching through matters or by doing a search. Let's say that I wanted to save this now into the Aladdin Corp acquisition. I could just do a quick search for Aladdin. It finds that matter right there. I browse into it, pick the appropriate folder, and now simply save that document as a new document into that particular matter file right there. We have other integrations into Word for other functions. So what if I wanted to finalize this as a PDF? I can click Save as PDF, and again, you see that I can save this now as a new version or an entirely new document. If I do want to bring it in as a new document, I just go ahead and select that, and again, I get my Browse dialog right here. I can go into my most recent matters. Maybe I want to save this into the Aero Company in a Quantive acquisition, and just go ahead now and bring this into the Agreements folder there. Once I go ahead and save that, now I've created a PDF and saved it right into that matter file, which automatically profiles and secures the document right there. And you might remember I showed you the timeline view and the properties and versions over in the web UI. All of that information comes across over into Microsoft Office as well. So if I do want to see some of the profile information on this document right here in Word, I have the same information and the same look and feel right there. I can see multiple versions listed right there, and I even have access to the timeline that you see right there for this new document that I just created. So all of that information is available to me right there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a step back over here to the web UI, and we talked a little bit about clients and matters. I wanted to spend a little bit more time now over in the main user experience talking about that specifically. So why don't I go ahead and click on matters here, and when I click on matters, I have the same type of timeline view that I have for documents. It shows me the most recent matters that I've been working on from today and earlier this week. I can browse into any of these matters and see the structure, and browse into the Agreements folder, for example, and see all that information. From here, if I wanted to upload a new document or even drag and drop, easy enough for me to do, and of course I can filter through any of these documents, once again using the filters that we saw previously. Coming back over here to my main matters list, this of course is my timeline view of matters. For those existing iManage customers who are used to using the My Matters list, that's available as well. That doesn't go away. So this is a curated list of matters where I can add a matter or remove a matter very easily. So this allows me to maintain my own list of favorite matters, whereas the recent matters is dynamic. It updates itself automatically based on my activity. And of course I can do the same type of search for matters just as I did for documents. So let's say that I was going to do that same search for agreement. Simple enough for me to do. I type that in, searches across all of the matters, and comes back with a list of hits here for matters that actually match that criteria. And if I browse into one of these, notice that the search again is smart. It knows that I'm now within a matter file, and it's automatically set the scope specifically to that matter. So if I were to do a search here within a Kofax matter, and we'll just go ahead and come back out here, and let's do a search instead for agreement, it's going to go ahead now and keep my search restricted just to within that matter file. So these documents that came back were a hit based just on that matter. Of course, if I want to expand the search, I can do that and search across everything, but by default, it's going to keep my results restricted specifically to that matter file because the system knows where it is that I'm working. Now in Work 10, for the first time, we now also provide a client-centric view. So in addition to a matter-centric view, it's very easy for me to view my documents and my work on a client-by-client basis. So when I come into recent clients, the same rules apply. I have the same timeline view of clients that I've recently worked on. If I wanted to click into one of these, it'll show me a list of all of the matters that I've been working on. And regardless of whether I'm in a matter or a client level, if I want to see a roll-up view of all documents across the matter or across the client, I can always just tap latest documents and it'll show me all the latest documents across this entire client or matter if I happen to be there, regardless of the folder that it happens to be in. So for folks that want the ability to see a flat list of all documents for a particular client or a particular matter, makes it real easy for me to just simply come in, tap that, and get that roll-up view of all that information. So we really do try to give you different ways of looking at the information depending on how it is you prefer to work. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about here is emails. Now, I've talked about my recent documents. We looked at recent matters and clients. What about recent emails? What is this showing me here? Well, what this is showing me is a specific list of recently filed emails in iManage Work 10. And more specifically, these are recently filed emails that involve me. They were either sent to me or sent from me, or I was CC'd, or I filed them myself. And with my recently filed emails, notice that the filters again change appropriately based on what I'm looking at. Now that I'm in recently filed emails, I can filter these by emails just sent to me or from me, or maybe things that were just filed within the last week. And I can even decide whether or not I want to see things that have an attachment or don't have an attachment. So if I select has attachment, again, I'm only looking at emails with an attachment. One thing to point out, when you take a look at this email right here, you notice that some of these have a little chevron icon. That's an indicator that that email is actually part of a conversation thread. So in Work 10, we're actually tracking all of the emails for a particular conversation. Allows me to see all the emails right there. I can go ahead and select either one and get a preview. If it happens to have any attachments, I can see those listed right there. And if I do want to zoom into the email itself, easy enough for me to do. All I have to do is go ahead and tap on that, and that will bring up a preview of that email from which I can reply or forward right here within the Work 10 application. So there's obviously lots of power that we have within Work 10 for managing email. How do we actually get email into the system? Well, to show you that, why don't we go over to Outlook and let's talk a little bit about the filing capability that we have in Work 10. Now, iManage has always had a powerful email management solution within our product suite. With Work 10, we give it a nice update. The focus on email management in Work 10 is on filing of email. And what you'll notice here is that when I come in, I've got a number of emails here in my inbox. Those that have the little green circle with a check mark are emails that have already been filed into iManage. And if I actually wanted to see some of those filing details, I can see that information right here. So for any of these with the green circle that have been filed, we can see all those filing details, including the client matter information and the location where it's been filed in iManage, all listed right here. Now, how do we actually file email in? Well, if I click on an email, any of these here, as I go through, you notice that there's a value that changes up here in the toolbar. So the iManage Email Management toolbar is what allows me to file email, and the system can actually suggest a filing location based on information in the email. So for a number of these that have already been filed, it's going ahead and giving me up a suggestion. If I click on the down arrow here, it'll show me not only suggestions, but recent locations as well. So why don't we go back up here to this email. This hasn't been filed into iManage yet. It's not giving me any suggestions, but if we click the drop down here, it now gives me the ability to choose any of these recent locations, perhaps this one right here, and then all I have to do is tap Quick File, and that will now file that email directly into iManage. What if I want to file an email to a location that's not in my recents or in my suggestions? Well, why don't we go down here and find another email. I'll go ahead and click the down arrow, and in this case, I'll select Browse and File. This allows me to browse iManage for a new filing location. And new in Work 10 is the ability for you to take an email and actually file it to multiple matters at one time. So that's what you see right here where it says File to Multiple Locations. I can either turn that off or turn it on. And what it'll allow me to do is select a location here. Maybe I'll file it there. Maybe I'll also file it into the Aladdin Corp acquisition. And then for a third location, I'll actually go search for it. So why don't we come on in here. I see Apple versus Microcom. I'll go ahead and click into that. I'll select the email folder. And now I've added a third location as well by just browsing through and searching iManage to find that location. And now when I go ahead and click File, this email will now be filed simultaneously into all three of those matters in one shot, and that's new in Work 10. Now, a lot of people look at this filing capability and they say, well, that's great, but I'm actually doing my own email management using Outlook folders. I've gone to great lengths to set up Outlook folders. Can't I just keep doing that? And the answer is yes, because what we can do is we can map those Outlook folders directly into iManage. So you notice under my inbox here, I have an Outlook folder called the arrow case. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and unlink this real quick so I can show you how we link it. But what I want to do is I want to now link this Outlook folder to a filing location in iManage. So all I do is select Link to iManage, brings up the Browse dialog that you've seen before. In this case, I'll just go ahead and do a search. Let's go ahead and search for arrow. And now I've gone ahead and found the matter file that I'm looking for. I'll browse into it. I'll go to the correspondence folder and I'll select email. And once I select that, now it goes ahead and will link that Outlook folder to this location in iManage. And it gives me a couple of options. I can specify whether I want emails to be moved or copied from Outlook into iManage, and I can even override security if I want to do that. Once I click OK, now the icon changes, and that's my indicator that this Outlook folder is mapped to iManage, and any emails I put into it will automatically be filed into that location. So the final thing I want to talk about here is attachment handling. And you do notice here that this last email that came in has a Word document attached. We have a Save Attachments button here that allows me to save this attachment either as a new document or a new version of an existing document. If I want to save it as a new document, I just go ahead and select that, and now I find my location. I might start off in my Recent Matters or my Matters list to find a location, or I could search. So I could come in here and do a quick search for Kofax, find that location, and select the Documents folder, and just simply file that attachment in right there. One other thing I might want to do is bring it in as a new version. So here's another attachment here. This attachment in this email actually originated in iManage. So the document originally came from iManage, was sent outside the firm. Now it's come back, and I want to bring this attachment in as the latest version. If I go to Save Attachments and say New,
Muted.
Oh, now I see something come up. Let's see here. Okay, so it's telling me the connection's been restored. So sorry about that. I'm not sure if that affected anyone else or not.
Okay, no problem. Maybe Angie could confirm whether she saw the same thing. I'm happy to go back over anything if folks lost out on anything there.
There's a little delay. I'd say about 5 minutes or so, or a little less. Just a couple minutes, Scott.
And I think it only affected the Afinety folks.
Okay, then it was just us. Okay. Go ahead and continue, Scott. Thank you.
All right, no problem, no problem. So, so what I am showing here is the ability to take an iManage attachment, and or I should say an attachment to an Outlook email, and save it into iManage as the latest version of a document. And in this case, the attachment originally came from an iManage document, as I said, and we can see here that the system automatically found that document. I didn't have to go looking for it. So we actually can tag in the document information that indicates where it came from in iManage. So I can see here that it came from document 53226, and all I have to do is hit save to save that attachment in as the latest version. Okay. So we've covered quite a bit there with Work 10. Hopefully that's given you a good overview. Again, just to recap, the new Work 10 user experience is fully responsive. It's a web-based app, but it works. It's very powerful and works great on your desktop or your mobile device. The focus is on recency and dynamic access to your content. So we show you all the recent documents and matters and clients that you've been working on. The integration in Microsoft Office provides you the same look and feel that you have in the web app, all embedded within the tools that you use most. And then finally, over here in Outlook, this gives us the ability to very easily go ahead and file email into any location in iManage, again, with that same look and feel that we saw previously. So what I'm going to do now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to my presentation. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're currently working on that takes our solution set in a new, but I think very necessary direction. So around our iManage governance suite, we're working on two new security products. One is called iManage Security Policy Manager, and the other is iManage Threat Manager. And I think these are very timely solutions when you look at what's going on in the world, and specifically what's been happening in a lot of law firms today. Hacking is something that's been around for a long time. And we've always been very concerned with the perimeter of our network. How do we keep the bad guys out? We put up firewalls and we put up all kinds of security products so that people can't break into our network. That's not really where the problem is today, though, is it? The problem today is that people are already inside our network, whether it be through social engineering or successful phishing attacks. You have bad actors who actually have legitimate credentials in your network, on your environment. They may be even employees of the firm. They may be people that have perfectly legitimate access to everything who are doing something nefarious. So how do we minimize our exposure, and how do we catch those people when they're already in the environment? And that's what these two products propose to solve. So with Security Policy Manager, what we're talking about here very broadly is ethical walls. How do we set up shields within the environment so that folks only have access to the content that they really should have access to? And we refer to this as need-to-know access because it's really more than just ethical walls. Ethical walls in a law firm have always been concerned with shielding people who have either business or ethical conflicts. If I'm working on something for this particular client, I shouldn't see anything for that client's competitor. The problem is that traditionally law firms have only set those up when they're absolutely forced to do it. Other than that, what do? We make everything public. Now, why do we do that? Because it's easier. It's easy to make things public because that way we don't have to worry about messing with security when an attorney calls and says, well, I need access to this matter and I need access now. So security has been one of those things that traditionally, again, inside of a law firm, we've been very hesitant about putting in place unless we absolutely have to. But when you do that, it opens you up. So Security Policy Manager is really focused on making it easy to secure everything in the firm, and then very easy to provide need-to-know access just for those people who need access to specific clients and matters. So when you look at the key drivers behind it, again, it's much more than just ethical walls. The client-driven bubble here certainly is important. That's where the traditional ethical wall falls into play. We need to be able to limit access based on client or matter teams. And there's other policies that need to go around that. Security Policy Manager certainly addresses that, but it also addresses firm-driven policies. This is where we want to limit things by practice group. If I'm in practice group A, I don't really have a legitimate need to see anything over in practice group B, so why should I have access to that content? So being able to limit that access by things like practice group or business function and classify the data appropriately gives us an additional layer of security. And then finally, security sometimes can be completely regulatory driven. This is applicable, I think, more to corporate legal departments, but a lot of times your security is driven by external forces and regulations. It doesn't really have anything to do with your internal constraints, it's because regulations say that you have to secure things a certain way. So Security Policy Manager allows you to set up policies that are driven by these key drivers and address all of these different solutions and situations. So again, looking at the different layers, restricting access by access control lists on the matter or document level certainly is one of the key things the policy manager can do. So we can set up those ethical walls based on matter teams, teams defined at the client level, the practice group, and so forth. But then it also excels at setting up security barriers, role-based security. This is where we set up opposing client and matter teams. Rather than restricting just at the client and matter level, we can just simply set up a rule that says, okay, these two matters are conflicted. And once we do that, then all of the security that's already in place automatically changes itself based on that. If any individuals have conflicts, we can just simply mark them as conflicted, and that's all we have to do. And then finally, there's data handling policies. How do we make sure that we're not only securing the content and securing access to it, but making sure that it can't be taken out of the system, that it can't be exported to a thumb drive, for example, stored on portable media, and so forth. And again, these are all the areas that Policy Manager addresses. This is, again, a new product from iManage and will be available in the first half of 2017. So the second aspect to the security story here is how do we, once we've secured everything, how do we detect threats that are actually happening in real time in our environment? Assuming someone has gotten access to our content, how do we detect them? How do we know that somebody is doing something that they shouldn't be doing? And that's what Threat Manager does. What it does is it uses machine learning to basically understand the baseline activities of different users in your environment. By going through and doing this analysis, we can build a picture and a story of how users typically interact with different matters and clients in the system. Then it does continuous scanning, and it starts looking for outliers. It starts looking for activity that goes outside those boundaries. Once it does that, then it can go ahead and notify the appropriate folks. You have powerful reporting that you can use to go ahead and see threats on a daily or even hourly basis. And then it has forensic activities where you can drill into these to really see, okay, who is it that's doing this activity? What are the clients? What are the matters? What are the types of documents that this person is actually looking at in order for you to figure out, is this really a real threat? Or is this just behavior that for whatever reason seems to go outside the bounds? So the goal is always to reduce the number of false positives and really catch the bad actors in progress. This gives you a little idea of what Threat Manager actually looks like. So what you're seeing here is the threat bubble diagram. And there's a lot of information right here in this one little screenshot. The size of the bubble basically shows the amount of content. The color of the bubble indicates the level of threat. There's not necessarily a correlation between those two. Just because someone is accessing a lot of documents doesn't mean that they're doing anything abnormal. They may just be, somebody who has a need to be doing that. So we have green bubbles, which are not a threat, that are fairly large, and then we have some red bubbles that represent a high threat that are actually quite small. And it may be just because a person's only accessed a handful of documents, but they've done so on a matter or within a practice group that they really have no business access. Why would they be doing that? So Threat Manager now allows us to produce this kind of information. We can drill down into it. We can see specifically who is doing this activity, what clients, what matters, what documents are being accessed, and then we can make a determination based on that. Okay. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and for listening in today, and I think we do still have a few minutes. So Angie and Diana, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Great. Thank you so much, Scott. Diana, I think you're going to do some moderating on the questions that may have come through.
Yes, we've received one thus far, so for those of you still on the phone, if you do have questions, why don't you go ahead and send them over now. So the first question from Lucy is, does a document management program integrate into or work with a case management program? her firm uses Time Matters?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes. The deeper answer is, integration really really depends on what you want to do. So we do have a number of integrations with different case management systems and matter management systems. A simple example of that is just being able to get the client matter information from the case management system into the document management system. So all your clients and matters are automatically populated and consistent across the systems. From that, we can automatically create the matter workspaces based on the matter type. Again, that would come from the case management system. So that data flow is pretty standard, and we have tools out of the box to help you set that up. Now, of course, integrations can go deeper. A number of case management vendors and matter management vendors have created their own integrations into iManage, where you can actually take iManage content and display it within the matter file, within the case management or matter management system, so that's possible as well. But from our angle, we definitely provide the ability for you to get that data from case management into iManage.
Great, thank you. The next question from Craig, does iManage 10 have an interface that allows bulk export of documents or folders?
Yes. If you remember from my presentation, I talked about iManage Control Center, which is our new administrative tool for managing the system. Control Center will include the ability for you to perform bulk document and content operations, including bulk export and bulk import. So that's not in Control Center in the initial version 10 release, but that is scheduled to be in our next release in the first half of 2017.
Great, thank you. Next question, does iManage 10, and this is from Michael, does iManage 10 integrate in such a way that documents can be uploaded to the internet similar to local files? The use case is when e-filing with courts. We currently have to export the document to upload it.
Yes, great question. And the answer there is yes, and the solution is what's called FileShare 10. So with FileShare version 10, what you have is the ability to expose your iManage system essentially as a shared drive on your network. So all you have to do in that case is point your browser to the map drive that maps to iManage. You'll be able to see all of the clients and matters listed just as you would if you were looking at a Windows file share, and you can upload your content directly. FileShare has actually been around for quite some time, but with version 10 we've greatly improved it, we've enhanced performance, and it fully supports the Mac platform now as well.
Great, thank you. And that is all the questions that we received thus far.